So this week we are talking all about insulin resistance and how it relates to the thyroid. So this is a very important topic for you to know about because many patients that have hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's do not realize that they have insulin resistance as well. And that is a double metabolic whammy. So when you're trying to lose weight and you are hopefully being treated properly for your thyroid problem, we also want to check and make sure and rule out the possibility of insulin resistance because that will put you at a metabolic disadvantage. So what this means is that your cells are actually resistant to insulin being secreted whenever you eat anything. So let's say you eat some chicken and broccoli. Your pancreas secretes insulin, and that insulin goes out and tries to get into the cell. And this is a very basic explanation just for you to understand. So if you picture all of the cells with open doors because they want insulin, they want that insulin to come in. If you think of a type 1 diabetic, they have to take insulin to survive. They cannot go without their insulin at all. So the cells want that insulin in. If you are insulin resistant, some of your cells' doors are actually closed. They are resistant to the insulin that's coming out. And that excess insulin pushes back into the system and raises the blood sugar or the blood glucose number. And when we see that number go above an 86, that is indicative of insulin resistance. So when you grab your labs, whether it's a comp metabolic panel or just a glucose, you want to make sure that that glucose number is below an 86. Now, you will not get flagged as being high, as being insulin resistant. You most likely will not be told by your doctor that you are insulin resistant unless that number goes to a 99, and in some labs, it's even as high as 110. We are looking at you from an optimal standpoint, from a functional medicine standpoint, and we want that glucose number to be below an 86. That's very important. Anything above an 86 does indicate insulin resistance. Now, why this is important for weight? You have to realize that insulin is like a Jekyll and Hyde hormone. So it's needed for life, like we talked about. All of the cells need insulin. You need insulin to survive. But if you have too high of insulin, then it is the fat storage hormone. So it's just like a Jekyll and Hyde. It has two faces. So in the one face, needed for life, the other face, in excess, fat storage. If you are constantly in a fat storage mode, you cannot be in a fat burning mode. So then when you pair up insulin resistance with hypothyroidism, you can see where it's a double whammy to your metabolism. It will slow things down. You will never lose weight. And in fact, you might gain weight. So again, when I work with patients, I look at you as a whole person. We have to look at all of the symptoms that you're dealing with, but we also have to look at your lab values and make sure they are optimal, not just normal, optimal. So I want your thyroid optimized, but I also want to make sure that there's not insulin resistance hanging around. If there is, there are definitely things that we can do. So in the Facebook Live for this week, I talked about berberine, and I will post the link to my favorite berberine supplement below. It has worked phenomenally for all of my patients that have insulin resistance and even type 2 diabetes. The scientific literature is definitely out and is strongly in support of the use of berberine with metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, obesity, and it even works for IBS too, irritable bowel syndrome. So it gives you almost a double bang for your buck. And it works with metformin. So if you are on metformin already and you know that you have insulin resistance, then or type 2 diabetes, then it works very well with metformin to just lower that insulin response and lower the blood sugar response, that glucose response that you're getting from food. It opens up those cell doors that are closed and that are resistant to the insulin. So it opens those up so the insulin can come in. That's what we want. We don't want it floating around in the body. We want it in the cell doing its work. So that's what berberine does. So that is one thing that we can do, and we can definitely change up your diet and change your nutrition plan as well. So there are things we can do to improve insulin resistance. In the next video this week, I will talk about how there is a connection between insulin, thyroid, and cholesterol. So if you're on a statin medication, you need to stay tuned and watch for that other video, because we're going to describe that triangle connection. I'll get my whiteboard out that's sitting here and we'll start drawing. But in the meantime, please share this video with anyone that you know, or share it on your page, because I guarantee you there's a ton of people out there walking around, and you might be one of them, that has insulin resistance but doesn't even know it, because again, they're going by standard lab value ranges and not functional medicine optimal lab value ranges. Again, in the comments section, I will post a link to my free guide. I want you to download that guide, because in there are all of the thyroid tests that we want you to have done, all of the optimal lab values for those thyroid tests. And then we also talk about insulin resistance and what you can do, how to test it, all the tests to get to rule out insulin resistance, and where your numbers should be. So definitely download that guide and share this video with your loved ones and your friends and people who might be walking around struggling, walking around with insulin resistance and not know what to do about it. So until next time, thank you so much for watching.